All right. I'm hoping this is the final entry in the series, Reflections on the Election. We'll see how things go next week. I'm not planning to continue this unless something extraordinary happens, but we never know when some more reflections might be required. But this is the third in our series where I am speaking and on the issues of our day as represented by the candidates that we have at hand. So I'll begin as I began last week with George Orwell's quote, "In the time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act," and we are beginning a revolution. Voting update, early elections are done, praise the Lord, but we're gearing up toward our election day, which will require a tremendous amount of prayer. So do not get crazy, get praisy. See what I did there? All right. Woe to those who call good evil and evil good. I wonder if we might point out any of our candidates who might be, well, let's just see. What sort of candidate should believers support? Again, this is the second part of this section, this module, and last week we began our understanding, our discussion, and I wanted to make clear that our hope is, of course, in the gospel of Messiah, not in this world's political parties or ideologies. Our hope is certainly not in a specific political party. However, our God-given responsibility as American citizens is to diligently analyze and identify platforms and positions. Now, I have an asterisk there because I want you to understand I'm speaking of platforms and positions, not candidates, that best reflect biblical truth, and to vote for those candidates. If you're looking for a candidate who best reflects biblical truth, keep looking. You won't find him. At best, you will find imperfect humanity. But nonetheless, the platforms and positions that they represent are helpful. And we must vote for those candidates that best reflect the biblical truth in their positions and platforms, and who will best act to preserve the morality of our culture and protect our God-given liberties. We led off with Scripture last week and the week before, render to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's. And in our nation, our government, which is of the people, by the people, and for the people by design, we are not like other nations. Our republic is not like every other nation that has ever existed. We, the people, are the ones who are responsible. And that means myself and you. Whether you like it or not, you can hide your head like an ostrich in the sand and say, I'm above politics, I'm heavenly minded, but don't be so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good, particularly when the Lord calls you to a responsibility, and that is to honor the government that God has subjected you to. And our government is a republic. That means that we are a representative, constitutional republic. That means that we are all involved. That's why we're spending this time on this. Well, we want a candidate. What kind of candidate do we want? This is what we did last week. We'll just review. Pro-information, not pro-censorship. So I want someone who's going to stand up to the mass media, to CNN, to the New York Times, to the alphabet networks, to social media, and say, who elected you, you petty tyrants? Censoring important information, acting like a wing of one party, the media wing of one party, playing against the other, censoring, literally censoring, essential to know information as we make our election now season, not election day, decisions. Now, speaking 2 weeks after the event, the New York Post, the oldest paper in America, is still unable to use its Twitter account. It's pathetic. It's absurd. And something must be done. I want a candidate. I want a party. I want those in office to protect that freedom of information. I do not want Pravda. If I wanted Pravda, I would have moved to the Soviet Union back in the 80s. That's a direction people aren't going. They're going this way, right? They're fleeing socialism. They're fleeing the dictatorship of communism, the oppression of it. I want a candidate who is pro-free speech, speaking of which, we live in a society that is increasingly woke, and cancel culture is becoming stronger by the week. Will we turn around a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and still have the freedom to speak the truth in love, of course, but to speak the truth? Or will legislation like the Equality Act, the law, become the law of the land, where the pronouns that I use or don't use can land me a fine or even jail time? I want a party who will protect my free speech. I want a candidate who is solidly pro-Israel. I remember the previous candidate, or the previous president, and his vice president, who sent $1.5 billion of cash to Iran, Israel's implacable enemy. I like what our president has done. He made his promises, and he kept his promises. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He made peace between Israel and 3 Arab nations. Can't be done. He did it. And an extraordinary thing happened this week. I don't know if you heard about it. This is my old neighborhood in Brooklyn. There is a caravan of Jews for Trump. I cannot believe it. But the Jewish people get it. They understand which candidate is pro-Israel and which one is not. And of course, we spoke of the pro-life issue. A candidate who is pro-life. We made the case, and you can go back and look at last week's message if you would like to see the details, that President Trump is by far, there's not even a contest, he is the most pro-life president ever. More than Reagan, more than George Bush, more than George W. Bush, the most pro-life president ever. Vice President Biden would be the most pro-abortion president ever. Don't take my word for it. Look at their party platform. Listen to the words that he says. And God forbid Harris ever gets in. She would be even worse on the issue of life. So if we want to have a nation that allows abortions all the way up till birth or beyond, we know who to vote for. If we want to keep that from happening, we know who to vote for. Who will stand up for the unborn, stand up for those who cannot speak for themselves, stand up for life. Here's an update since last week. There's a Geneva Consensus Declaration. I don't know if you heard it on the news. I didn't hear it on the news, report on the news. I had to search for this. Update, as of October 22nd, the Trump administration, in the midst of this crazy season of campaigning, 3 campaigns a day, he's doing whatever he's doing, these rallies, Trump led a 32-nation signing ceremony of a declaration that affirms there is no international right to abortion. So, yes, I know, right? He has made promises, and he has kept his promises. There are some of us who doubted how strong he was on the issue of life. There is no doubt anymore. In our nation or internationally, the world knows where this man stands when it comes to the issue of life. We want a candidate who is pro-law enforcement, not one who allows the streets of our cities to run with blood and burn with fire and anarchy to reign. We want a candidate who will back our men in blue, not stand by and say, oh, let's defund the police. And let's be clear that when they say defund the police, although they said, well, that's not really what, yes, they're talking about taking money away and abolishing the police department. That is what they have said. I take them at their word. We don't want every policeman to have to be Wyatt Earp, a cowboy, and shoot him in the leg, some kind of crazy goal that's not realistic. So in summary, where we were, pro-information candidate. If you hate censorship, the Democratic Party is not for you. Pro-free speech, if you believe in the First Amendment, the Democrat Party, not for you. Pro-Israel, if you love Israel, and we showed the video last week, the Democrat Party is not for you, where they reject Jerusalem. They needed 2/3 majority, couldn't get it. Pro-life, if you value the unborn, the Democrat Party is clearly not for you. And finally, if you value law and order, the Democrat Party is not for you. Let's move on. I want a candidate who is pro-Constitution. The preamble of the Constitution states as follows, and it's good to read it every now and then. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. Is there anybody in this room, is there anybody watching this presentation who can say, oh yes, we're living in a more perfect union now? No, we are as far from a perfect union as we have been since at least 1865. Establish justice. In order to form a more perfect union, to establish justice. We'll talk about that in a moment. Whether justice is being done in our land or whether perversions of justice are being done. To ensure domestic tranquility. How's our domestic tranquility going these days? Provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare. That is not monetary handouts, that's our general well-being. And I would say that the general well-being of our nation, not strong right now. And I know which portion of society I place the responsibility on. And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. The Constitution speaks of our posterity. That is, those who are yet unborn. Even the Constitution recognizes the issue of life. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. I want to point out one aspect of the Constitution which has been roundly ignored, increasingly and especially leading up to this election. Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution is very clear regarding who is responsible, who has the responsibility to make the laws regarding our elections. The times, the places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. Not by the judiciary, not by the governor, not by the executive, but by the legislature. What's happening right now is there are lawsuits in just about, I probably think, every state in the union right now regarding this election law, and the judges are ruling, whether it's the Supreme Court of our nation, whether it's the Supreme Court of the state, whether it's a local district court, whether it's a national district court. Judges are making stuff up out of their back pocket. It is not up to a judge, a federal judge, a district judge, a local judge, or a justice of the United States to determine the times and the ways that our states hold their elections. Why are our elections in such a mess right now? Why might we not know who the next president or who holds the Senate, who holds the Congress for another, 2 weeks, 1 week, 10 days, a month? Who knows? Because judges are making rulings that they have no right to make. I need a candidate, I need a party who's going to stand for the Constitution and say, it's written right here in the blood of our patriots let's hold to our Constitution. The Bill of Rights, I just want to point out a few things. Freedom of religion, yeah, I want a candidate who's going to protect our freedom of religion. I want a candidate, as I said, who will protect our freedom of speech. A candidate who will protect the press and protect the press from itself if need be. Protect the right to assemble. Right now, governors are creating law. You do not have the right to assemble. Thank God that we don't have a governor like that here in Texas. But there are states like New York, like California, like Michigan, like Illinois. They will limit your right to assemble. Not to protest, of course. Protest, come as you are, all you can eat. Did you hear about Thanksgiving in California? Okay, keep your mask on. 6 feet apart, right? Don't raise your voice. Don't holler. What kind of Thanksgiving is that? I don't know. And the right to petition. I can tell you right now, there's a lot of citizens who are going to take that right to heart after this election, no matter how it goes. The right to keep and bear arms and maintain a well-regulated militia. There is one candidate, one party that stands on one end of this issue, and a candidate and a party who stands on an anti-constitutional end of the spectrum. Look at number 6, the right of accused persons, the right to a speedy and public trial. In our society today, people are accused and they are pronounced guilty by the press. I don't know how anybody can serve in a jury today whose mind is not tainted by the opinions of 24-hour news cycles, social media, because our culture has already convicted before they've had the right to a trial. And number 10, of course, they're all important, but number 10, power is reserved to the states. I want a candidate who is going to stand for federalism. You know, our current president has taken a lot of heat because he did not impose. They accuse him of being a dictator, but a dictator would have said, okay, regarding COVID, we're going to lock down, we're going to open up, here's what we're going to do, and every state better march in tune. He's not a dictator, he's the opposite. He's a federalist. And he said, I do not have the power or the authority to dictate to states how they handle. And you see how Texas handled the COVID outbreak, our lockdown, our coming back into business. You see how California, Michigan, Illinois, New York, New Jersey. President Trump has not imposed his will like a dictator. He believes that the powers that are not enumerated by the Constitution, every one of those powers is reserved to the states. I want a candidate who's going to stand for the Constitution, a federalist, not a dictator. I'm not looking for the second coming of FDR. Our Constitution, as John Adams said, was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other, and therein may lie the problem. John Adams was there when the Constitution was drafted. He was there to sign the Declaration. He knows the parameters of the Constitution. And as our second president, he would be well aware that once we have a society that is no longer a moral or religious one, the Constitution that we have is up for grabs. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. What would I like to do? What's the solution? Change the Constitution? No. Change the culture. That is the challenge that is in your laps. It's in my lap and in yours. As we move forward after this week, come what may, and we will move forward. So, if you believe in the Constitution, the Democrat Party is not for you. The Constitution is not a living, breathing document whose words change, the meaning of the words change depending on the whim of the age and the glasses of the justices looking at it. No. We want originalists. We want textualists. Pro-freedom of religion. Point out a couple of things about the Republican Party platform that are, and compare it to the Democrat Party platform, right? Freedom of Americans to act on their religious beliefs, not only in worship. It was a while ago, but Hillary Clinton used to speak of freedom of worship. That was the big thing for freedom of worship, which means that the Democratic Party wanted to confine our freedoms to Sunday morning, or in our case, Saturday morning. Don't let it impact our lives out there. We live in a secular world, and you must stay in the religious ghetto of Sunday morning or Saturday morning. But the Republican Party says, no, everyday lives. It's not freedom of worship that the Constitution grants. It is freedom of religion. And it will defend religious institutions against government control. I will not stand for a president. I will not stand for a governor. I will not stand for a legislature or for a judiciary who demands that I do something contrary to Scripture. I do not want religious institutions under government control. I want a party that is going to support the right of the people to conduct their business in accordance with religious belief. So that means if I want to bake a cake, if I don't want to bake a cake, I have the freedom to do so. It's called religious liberty, and it's guaranteed in our Constitution. And I do not want the IRS. Lois Lerner, rest in retirement, lady. The imperious Yenta. I do not want anybody policing or censoring my freedom of speech. Democratic Party platform. We will reject the Trump administration's use of broad religious exemptions to allow businesses, medical providers, social service agencies, and others to discriminate. You read that, you better be scared, because that means that if this party gets into power, they are going to dictate how we run our businesses, how we run our places of worship, how we live our lives as servants of Messiah. Read it and tremble, frankly. If you value freedom of religion, and I do, the Democrat Party is not for you. I want a candidate that is pro-republic. Watch this.
I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
The media speak in lockstep.
Balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about the trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false news
has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 This is extremely dangerous
This
to our
must
democracy.
stop.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
You are here
Richard Blumenthal.
demanding justice. You are here demanding democracy.
That's right.
And let me tell you, what's happening in this building is not democracy. It is not what the American people want.
You're darn right, you fool. He is the senator from Connecticut, and he says, you want democracy. But that building, the Capitol, it is not providing democracy, and it was not designed to. We are a republic, and the more people continue to share the lie that we are a democracy, the worse our government and our society and our culture are going to get. I want a president. I want a candidate. I want a party that is going to remember that and I want a media that is going to remember that we are not a democracy. What we have is a constitutional republic. Democracy is the tyranny of the majority. That is not what America ever was. but it is what it will be if one party captures the Senate. What have they provided? What have they promised to do? The Senate has promised to do away with the filibuster, which means that a simple majority of 51 will be able to determine any law that the Senate passes. The minority, doesn't matter if it's 49, 51, the Senate. And once that happens, it's like dominoes. Supreme Court, they told you it's going to be packed. It will be packed. So we got excited about Salami Coney Barrett. Her voice is going to be nullified by another 2 or another 4 judges. If the Democrats get in, if the Democratic Party has its way, they will install judges who are not originalists, who are living, breathing, constitutional tea readers, who will put their fingers to the wind and determine what the people tell them that the Constitution says. The Senate will be ruined by the inclusion of 2 more states with 4 more senators who are from the Democratic Party, Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. There will never again be the likelihood of a Republican control of the Senate after that. And of course, the big one, which is to do away with the Electoral College. Well, Electoral College doesn't seem fair. And we are this close to losing the Electoral College. Another few elections, no more Electoral College, and it's okay for Texas, right? Because we're one of the big ones, but it's not okay for 40 of the states. It's okay for California. It's okay for New York. It's okay for Illinois, but it will not be okay for our country. Our country will be truly a democracy, and that is the end of the American experiment. So, sounds like the sky is falling? Well, if it sounds like the sky is falling, maybe it is, okay? If you believe in our republic, the Democrat Party is not for you. How about pro-justice? Injustice anywhere, as Martin Luther King said, is a threat to justice everywhere, and that is so true. As Amos 5:24 said, let justice rule down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Justice is a very important theme in the Bible. You shall do no injustice in judgment, Leviticus 19:15 says. You shall not be partial to the poor, nor defer to the great, but you are to judge your neighbor fairly. Not paying attention to who's poor or to who's rich. Fair, righteous judgment. The exercise of justice is joy for the righteous, but is terror for the workers of iniquity, says Proverbs 21:15. He has told you, O man, Micah 6:8 tells us, he has told you what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? Isaiah 61:8, I, the Lord, love justice. I hate robbery and the burnt offering, and I will faithfully give them their recompense and make an everlasting covenant with them. I love justice. Justice is one of the great themes of the Bible. And we see one of the great themes of the protests for decades now. But right now, these past few months, no justice, no peace. But do they mean, when they say justice, do they mean what God means by justice? When they speak of no justice, no peace, do they mean what the Bible means when the Bible speaks of justice? Or do they mean something else? They mean something else, of course. They mean social justice. What is social justice? First of all, anytime that you have to put a descriptive term in front of a modifier in front of the word justice, you know it's not justice, because justice by itself requires no modifier. Social justice must be something other than justice. And here it is. It is the state redistribution of advantages and resources to disadvantaged groups. How come? To satisfy their rights to social and economic equality. William H. Young. That is what they speak of when they say no justice. They're talking about state redistribution of advantages and resources to disadvantaged groups, because they have a right to social and economic equality. As Jonah Goldberg has pointed out, systems that produce unequal results, like life, are wrong or racist. and should be ignored or torn down. That's why you hear, tear the whole thing down, burn the whole system down. It's systematic racism. It's systematic racism, systemic oppression. If something is systemically poisoned by racism, you can't fix that. The only way, if it's systemic, you must destroy it and build something new. That is the agenda when you see social justice, no peace. The Oxford English Dictionary lists distributive justice as a synonym for social justice, and it is, take from you and give to me. Note the emphasis on the imposition of equality of outcome. You want equality of outcome and the result toward groups, and the indifference to equality of opportunity for the individual. So emphasis on equality of outcome, not equality of opportunity. Equality of opportunity, that is the American way. Equality of outcome, that is the socialist way. Groups, not individuals. Socialism, Marxism, Americanism, capitalism, our republic, the individual. And it necessitates, social justice by its definition, necessitates the identification of group victims and group oppressors. Justice is designed to be blind. That's why all these good-looking dames with the scales and the blindfold are walking around or standing outside our courthouses. These famous statues of justice is blind. Blind justice. Because social justice is no justice at all. It's assuredly not biblical justice. Pay no attention to the rich or to the poor. Judge all equally. Biblical justice is the distribution not of capital, not of finances, not of power, not of advantages. It's the distribution of righteousness. How? Through the upholding and application of the law with impartiality and with fairness, without regard to social or economic status. Justice is blind. Social justice has got its eyes wide open and its hand wide open as well. I love this oath of office. Now, Clarence Thomas did not administer this particular oath to Amy Coney Barrett. She had to take this, I guess, in the Supreme Court itself, in the halls of justice. But I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will administer justice without respect to persons and do equal right to the poor and to the rich. This is biblical justice. And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon me as blah, 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 a Supreme Court justice, according to the best of my abilities and understandings, agreeably to the Constitution and laws of the United States. So help me God. Social justice does not need God. It's got marks. Biblical justice, American system, our constitutional form of justice, it requires God. Our Constitution is appropriate for no other people, as John Adams said, but a religious people. So God bless her and may her tribe increase. But of course, the minority leader of the Senate said this prophetic thing, just like Caiaphas speaking of Yeshua and speaking what he knew not, intending one thing, saying another. Senator Schumer said, generations yet unborn will suffer the consequences of this nomination. The issue is there will be generations who will be born because of this nomination. My deepest, greatest, and most abiding sadness tonight is for the American people. Really? That's an insight. By people's words, you know their hearts. His deepest, greatest, and most abiding sadness tonight is for the American people. And what this nomination will mean for their lives. Me too, Chuck, okay? And I'm not sad about it. For their freedoms, for their fundamental rights. Again, me too, Chuck, but I'm giddy, not crying. It will go down as one of the darkest days in the 231-year history of the United States Senate. Well, dark is such a drama queen, this guy. But I'll tell you what will be one of the darkest days in the 230-year history of the United States Senate. If we hear that the Senate has turned to Democratic control, that will be indeed one of the darkest days, because we know everything that's going to happen after that. So if you believe in the administration of justice, the Democrat Party, not for you. I want a candidate who is pro-choice. You do? Pro-education choice. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he's old, he will not depart from it. And Proverbs again, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. If we don't want our children to become indoctrinated leftists, the Democratic Party is not for you. I do not, and the only way I can see and understand this incredible party-wide opposition to school choice is because this particular party wants the state to indoctrinate our children into leftist Marxist ideology. Right? We're going to add reading, writing, arithmetic, and Marxism to the basic requirements of our public education today. Not to mention all the other things, studying science. How about indoctrinating them to be afraid of the terrifying consequences of climate change, or how racist our society is, or that a man can be a woman and a woman can... What are we teaching our children? We must have educational choice, because it is the parents' responsibility to make sure that they protect our children. Anything less is child abuse and societal destruction, suicide. I want a pro-immigration president. I want a candidate who is pro-immigration, pro-legal immigration, that is. As Acts 17 speaks of borders. He made from one man every nation of mankind to live on the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation. I will fix your boundary from the Red Sea to the Sea of the Philistines. Exodus 23:31. God believes in boundaries and in borders. Even the story that Jesus tells about the rich man and Lazarus. Remember, between us and you, he's suffering in Hades, the fire. Between us and you, there is a great chasm fixed. That is called a border, so that those who wish to come over from here will not be able, and none may cross from over there to us. The Bible speaks of borders and boundaries. In fact, Deuteronomy makes it a specific law not to move your neighbor's boundary mark. In other words, the border is set. Do not enlarge one way or increase the other. Respect the borders of your neighbor's territory. Respect national borders as well. As Exodus 12, you hear a lot of talk, sound bites, about how the Bible speaks about being kind to the immigrant. The Bible is very, very clear regarding the immigrant who wishes to live in your midst. And this is something that is lost in the non-nuanced sound bites that you hear on TV. Exodus 12:49. And this is in the context of Passover. If a resident alien, if somebody who is living in your land, who's not an Israelite, if he wants to participate with you in the issues of the day, if he wants to live as a citizen and partake of being a citizen, which in this instance has to do with partaking of the Passover, he is responsible to have himself circumcised, right? Or there's no Passover for you. In other words, this is the next verse, the same law shall apply to the native as to the stranger who sojourns among you. So immigration is biblical, but legal immigration, immigrants must, according to the Bible, not some verse ripped out of context, immigrants must respect the laws of the land, starting with where the border is and what the border means. Citizenship for 11 million. We heard that at the debate the other night. Really? We're going to legalize however many there are, and I have great compassion. We should all have compassion for the immigrants in our midst, especially those who came, they weren't responsible adults. But nonetheless, the same law must apply. We're either a nation of laws or we're not. We're either a nation of borders or we're not. If you value secure borders and the rule of law, the Democrat Party, not for you. I want a party that's pro-objective truth, a candidate who is pro-objective truth, a political party or ideology that insists on others' acceptance of personal subjective feelings through legal coercion or force is simply unreasonable and incongruent with the Word of God. Stephen Gare. Our faith is built on objective truth. The Bible records narrative history, a series of propositions that make objective truth claims, starting with, in the beginning, God created. That's either objective truth or not. Continuing to, I am the way, the truth, and the life. That's either true, objectively, or not. And resting on Yeshua's resurrection, which is either objectively fact, true, history, or not. Everything regarding our faith is built on objective truth. I want a candidate who stands for objective truth. To continually erase and define language and concepts to undermine objective truth so that what is common and acceptable only a few years ago can today get someone canceled is not a world, is not a nation that I want to live in. So if you believe in objective truth, Democrat Party, not for you. I want a candidate who is pro-America. As God says in Job, he makes the nations great, then destroys them. He enlarges the nations, then leads them away. 1 Timothy 2, 1 and 2 says, I urge that entreaties and prayers, petitions, and thanksgivings be made on behalf of all men for kings and all who are in authority, so that we may lead a tranquil and quiet life in all goodness, godliness, and dignity. So we can be pro whatever nation we happen to be in. I happen to be a citizen of America. And so I want a candidate. I want a president. I want a party that is like me, pro-America. Can we advance that slide? I'm stuck. Thank you. I do not want a candidate who stands for the 1619 Project and believes that our society is systemically racist and America is a terrible nation that has never been great. I don't want a candidate like that. I don't want a candidate who stands for Marxism and anti-Semitism and defunding our police. When I'm in trouble and I've got a bad guy, I don't want to call, who am I going to call? Ghostbusters. Well, I don't want to call a social worker to help me. I want to call a policeman. If I'm having dinner, I don't want to be surrounded by a punk mob demanding that I raise my fist in solidarity and say, Black Lives Matter. How is this able to stand in America? I will never know. But how'd you like your mother? How'd you like your wife to be in the position of that lady? Your daughter to be in the position of that lady? How about churches? We live in a country now where churches can be burned down in the name of social justice. Persecution of believers begins with the destruction of their property. The Vietnamese church in Philadelphia that just burned. What does this Vietnamese church have to do with anything that happened in Philadelphia? But this is indeed what democracy looks like. Mob rule. Our respected President Abraham Lincoln, torn down. This is the dark moment in America's history. This, and depending on how our vote goes, on November 3rd. We'll either have more of this or we'll have a return. But of course, these protests are only fiery. They're mostly peaceful, right? We know that. Just like the Titanic's first voyage was mostly successful. Just like the Hindenburg, it was fiery, but mostly successful. It got all the way from Germany to New Jersey, and then, well, just that last 5 seconds was tough. And of course, America brings mostly peaceful end to World War II. That was pretty good, too. I love this meme. We stood by and did nothing as we watched our colleagues let their cities burn to the ground. But don't worry, we're here to fix things now. Pick up a phone. Make a speech. You have done nothing except when the riots were beginning to show up on the polls. All of a sudden, we saw some action. Be ashamed. Be ashamed. So if you treasure and have a deep and abiding love for our nation, the Democrat Party is not for you. I want a candidate who is pro-Black lives. I absolutely do, because I believe, not in this organization, but I do believe that Black lives matter. Absolutely. I believe that all Black lives matter, including the owner of this shop, which was ransacked in Philadelphia. Look at this. In 30 seconds, you'll see this place is cleaned out. I don't remember the name of the woman who owns the shop, but this is the second time this has happened. And her life savings, her blood, sweat, and tears of owning this business, of running this business, wiped out by a mob in 30 seconds. I believe that all Black lives matter, including the ones whose names have been forgotten. I'm ashamed to say that the only name that I remember from those who died on the first day of the riots was Captain David Dorn. I remember reading about these others, but I've forgotten their names, and I'm ashamed to say it. But all Black lives matter, and especially the Black lives who are snuffed out before even getting a chance to breathe. 1,000 Black babies are killed every day in America. In New York City, nearly 5,000 more Black lives are aborted than are born. You want to know the leading killer of unarmed Black lives? Planned Parenthood. Some people are getting wise to it, but I believe that all Black lives matter. And if you believe that all Black lives matter too, the Democratic Party is not for you. I believe in a party that's pro-science. I want a candidate who is pro-science. I am sick and tired of hearing the science is settled and follow the science. Follow the science. The science is settled. Blah, blah, blah. Science is predicated. I have a BA, but I understand when I hear BS, okay? Science is predicated on skepticism, laced with more skepticism. The act of suspending judgment, you see, forces objectivity in science. The scientific method, remember that? It's a method of research in which a problem is identified and relevant data is gathered. A hypothesis is formulated from this data, and the hypothesis is empirically tested. Scientific theory generally requires falsifiability. So when you tell me, wear a mask because we got to follow the science, I'm still looking for the definitive journal article where somebody can tell me that a dirty piece of cloth that I'm wearing every day without washing, loosely fitted on my face, is going to keep these tiny 0.1 microns germs from getting to me. I'm waiting for that definitive science, but nonetheless, we follow the science, which means we follow guys like this doctor of opinions that, okay, wear goggles and you can have casual sex, but make sure you wear a mask. Don't shake hands. Crowds are dangerous unless you're going to protest peacefully, of course. Don't sing in church. summed up by this guy right here. Who is this guy? Tedra, I can't even pronounce his name, and I don't want to. This guy is the director of who? Director of what? No, this director of who? But he's the first director general of who? WHO, without a medical degree. Why am I listening to what this guy says? He's a politician in the pocket of China. Why should we listen to anything that WHO says? No, I'm talking about why we should listen to anything that WHO says. And of course, Greta Thunberg, how dare you? How dare you? You know, I never liked the saying when I was a kid, but it's a classic. Some children should be seen and not heard. And here's the classic example. Here's the definition of one, right? Speaking on what she does not know. Science, follow the science. How is climate change falsifiable? How can you empirically study it and test it? All you can do is observe. It's not science, it's simply hypothesis. So don't ever believe someone who says that on issues of science that it's settled, and follow the science, or you're, I don't know, anti-science, I don't know, whatever. So if you believe in science, laced more with skepticism than ideology, and I do, Democrat Party's not for you. How about pro-family? I want a candidate who's pro-family. So if I believe that marriage is the union of one man and one woman, Democrat Party's not for you. By the way, that is specifically in the Republican platform, that marriage is identified as the union of one man and one woman, even though it's politically incorrect to say, it's still in the Republican Party platform, and that is for me. I want a candidate who is pro-sex, not gender. Pro-sex, not gender. You know, Judges speaks of a time like ours. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. In our society today, everybody did what's right in his own eyes, making it up as they go along, whatever. Let's listen to what candidate Biden has to say.
That an 8-year-old child or a 10-year-old child decides, you know, I decided I want to be transgender. That's what I think I'd like to be. It'll make my life a lot easier. There should be zero discrimination. And what's happening is too many transgender women of color are being murdered. They're being murdered. I mean, I think it's up to now 17. Don't hold me to that number.
But what you just said was...
It's higher now?
Yeah.
And that's just this year. And so I promise you, there is no reason to suggest that there should be any right denied your daughter or daughters, whichever, one or two, your daughter, that your other daughter has a right to be and do. No.
Right. So if you want to allow your 8-year-old child to live in a transgender state, there should be no discrimination. Thank you, Vice President Biden, for making it so clear. Now, there's a lot of articles, I did search on this, there's a lot of articles that are trying to explain away what Vice President Biden said. No, he really didn't mean transition. He really didn't mean what he actually said. He said what he said. I heard what he said, and you did too. And that is followed up. In case there's any ambiguity, let's be clear. Transgender equality is the civil rights issue of our time. He texted, there is no room for compromise when it comes to basic human rights. I'm sorry, I do not believe that subjecting an 8-year-old child to the whims of transgender ideology is basic human rights. I believe it's child abuse, and I want a candidate who will stand up for our children. I do not want a candidate. I do not want a president. I don't want a party. I don't want a government that's going to enforce. How can I say this? Let's just say that I do not want a candidate who's going to identify as science what the Psychological Institute up till last year or the year before viewed as an aberration, as dysphoria. Some of you remember this record. Do you remember Marlo Thomas and Friends, Free to Be You and Me? Rosie Greer, Alan Alda. You had the two babies. Hey, I'm a baby. So am I. It was a great album. Came out in 1972. I was 7 years old in 1972. And it was all about the ideology at that time that the left was pushing, is that there's no real difference between men and women, right? Boys and girls. You had the unisex clothing, and anything the boy can do, a girl can do. Anything a girl can do, a boy can do, right? So what's being taught by the left today regarding the fluidity of gender certainly undermines every principle taught by the left when I was a child in Free to Be You and Me, one of the best-selling albums of all time. Still sells today, incongruously. Marlo Thomas told girls they could be anything, but never, ever did she say they could be boys. That was contrary to the whole point of the album. Rosie Greer sang to boys that it's all right to cry. And Alan Alda told boys it was okay to play with dolls. And he wasn't referencing action figures. Mel Brooks and Marlo Thomas humorously identified themselves eventually as, respectively, a baby boy and a baby girl, identifiable as such by their obvious equipment. Oh, you're a girl, I'm a boy because of our equipment. Yet what was obvious to an infant in 1972 is perplexing to gender studies professors in 2020. See, today, if a boy wanted to play with girls, with dolls, rather, a boy wants to play with girls, the Freudian slip I've ever heard. If a boy wants to play with dolls, today you would say, maybe it's a girl trapped in my boy's body. No, it's just a boy who wants to play. And if a girl wanted to play with fire trucks, or if she wanted to compete in sport, that's not a boy in the girl's body. She's simply expressing a preference. I can't even use that term anymore, right? Mazie Hirono, right? You can't have it both ways. So if you believe that a man is not a woman and a woman's not a man, the Democrat Party is not for you. Got another 5, 7, 8 minutes. Pro-liberty. I do not want a society where we walk around like Borgs, right? Afraid of what to say, marching in lockstep. If you love freedom, Democrat Party, not for you. Now we get to the last component, pro-character. And before you tell me that they're all characters, of course they are all characters, right? I mean, we've seen them, we know these politicians are all characters, but I'm speaking of character. As Romans 12:16 says, do not be haughty in mind, but associate with the lowly. Do not be wise in your own estimation. I have to tell you that most politicians, just by virtue of running, most of them are not familiar with this verse, okay? That's just bottom line, right? But this is truly a battle for the soul of the nation, as the Biden campaign has said. Do not be fooled. They tell you right there, it's a battle for the soul of the nation. Truth in advertising. If you don't think that this is for all the marbles, you're not paying attention. So, I've heard that one candidate is a narcissist. Our current president, he's a narcissist. Well, every presidential candidate ever, okay? I don't care if it's Biden, I don't care if it's Harris, I don't care if it's, maybe Pence is exempt from this, but every president, you have to be somewhat of a narcissist. How about our previous occupant of the office? Every presidential candidate, just to have the ability to go on, okay, indicates a certain level of narcissism. Otherwise, I'm the solution to an entire nation's problems, right? Certain level of narcissism. So that is not something that's endemic to Trump or Biden or anybody, okay? What about an abrasive tone? Well, our current president has such an abrasive tone. It's from Queens. I'm from Brooklyn. I don't find it abrasive. I find it musical, right? How about somebody who's got a more polished tone, right? Biden, he speaks so softly. Yes, so softly because he didn't have a voice anymore. But when it comes down to an abrasive tone versus a polished tone, that's just a stylistic difference. And yet so many people are making this, oh, he's so loud, he's so abrasive, why does he have to speak that way? He turns, I love his policies. Of course I love his policies. But his tone? Let's grow up. How about a peacemaker? Who's a not a pacemaker here, that may be another case, but peacemaker. Blessed are the peacemakers. There's one candidate in this race who has 4 at this point, 4 Nobel Peace Prize nominations. One candidate who has zip, okay? Blessed are the peacemakers, I say. Boastful. President Trump is so boastful, always talking about the greatest of this, and you never saw anything like this, and whatever. Again, New York. I'll say it again, New York, okay? That's not boastful. That's just who we are, okay? But when it comes to boastful, let's look at this.
Quickly, I think I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
Wow, that's impressive. Well, sir, there's more.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His members.
Okay, so when it comes to one candidate who's boastful, at least he can boast of accomplishments. We have another candidate who is you wouldn't know how boastful he is because the press, I remember the 87 campaign. I was in college at the time, and I was interested in the Democratic primary at that time. I was following Biden. I liked that. I was interested in him. So I remember this very, very well. But again, the media, this is down the rabbit hole now, and the media will never bring this up. So when it comes to boastful, I'm going to call that a wash. Who's a womanizer? We all know Trump, right? He's a womanizer. Okay. Who committed adultery while he was married? We know who did that, except you have not heard reported the relationship, how the relationship between Jill Biden and Joe Biden began, and where the adultery was involved there. So as far as womanizer, and let us not forget the accusation here. You wanted to find out about the accusation of sexual abuse and harassment from Biden to Tara Reid. Oh, it was covered very well by 60 Minutes. It was covered pretty thoroughly by 60 Minutes. In Australia, you can see it online if you look it up. But as far as womanizer, both were. All I know is that, as far as I know now, while President Trump is in office, it's a clean slate. Adulterer, again, I've mentioned that already. We know President Trump's past, and now you know Biden's past as well. Again, a wash. Adultery is adultery. Who's a name caller? Oh, President Trump, he's so mean. He's cruel. He's callous. His tweets are so mean. He calls people names. How about this one? Lying dog-faced pony soldier. Trump supporters, dregs of society, chumps. President Trump, you're a clown. This clown. Name calling? I'm going to call that a wash as well. Character. So far, no advantage one or the other, okay? Who's a liar?
A story that Joe Biden has told before.
This guy climbed down a ravine, carried this guy up on his back under fire.
He's a terrific storyteller. Afghanistan as vice president when he was asked to pin a silver star on a heroic Navy captain.
I said, sir, I don't want the damn thing. Do not pin it on me, sir. Please, sir.
Ultimately, the Post reports Biden got the time period, the location, the heroic act, the type of medal, the military branch, and the rank of the recipient wrong, as well as his own role in the ceremony.
It's the God's truth, my word.
My word is a Biden, and we know what that's worth. okay? How the story he told, very moving, very powerful. How much of it was true? Sure, it was all true, but he had nothing to do with it. He wasn't there, okay? Somebody's a racist. Who's a racist? Is it racist? Why is President Trump called a racist? Is it because he didn't denounce white supremacists 39 times? He needed to go for the golden 40? Okay, would that have made him move from one category to the other? Is it because he's for legal immigration and he does not want to see human trafficking? He doesn't want to see children abused and used as tools by these coyotes. Amazing how the term racist can be thrown around. Look up some of Joe Biden's statements over the years and you'll see who's racist and who's not. Remember who endorses Joe Biden. Richard Spencer, the king of white supremacy. That Charlottesville rally with the tiki torches, he led that. Is he pro-Trump? No, he's pro-Biden. Have you heard one media pundit, one reporter, one journalist, quote unquote, say, Joe Biden, Richard Spencer has endorsed you. Would you like to disavow his endorsement? Not one peep. Who's a racist? Who's a plagiarist?
Neil Kinnock.
Biden seemed to be claiming Kinnock's vision and life as his own.
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family, in 1,000 generations, to be able to get to university?
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in northeast Pennsylvania and come up after 12 hours and play football.
8 hours underground, and then come up and play football.
It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
There was no platform upon which they could stand.
I should have said, to paraphrase Neil Kinnock,
instead of plagiarizing him.
The only time I didn't, and all the times I've ever used it.
But CBS News found a tape of a second instance.
It reappeared in the New York Times with a new charge, that Biden had appropriated a famous litany from the late Robert Kennedy about what the gross national product cannot measure.
It cannot measure the health of our children.
The health of our children.
The quality of our education.
The quality of their education.
The joy of their play.
For the joy of their play.
Biden gave Kennedy no credit. He has also quoted or paraphrased John Kennedy, Hubert Humphrey, and British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock, all without credit.
Joseph Biden admitted today that he committed plagiarism when he was in law school. He said it was a mistake, but that it was unintentional.
He quoted 5 pages of someone else's work without proper citation.
I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb
things again. Yeah, we know. Even his campaign slogan, what is Build Back Better, but a alliterative way of saying make America great again. Build back better. Build what back better? Build America back better. In other words, make it great like it used to be. Even the campaign slogan plagiarizes President Trump. This is why he dropped out of the presidential race. He was leading in 1987. I was there, I remember. And he dropped out because he's not only a plagiarist, a serial plagiarist. I say advantage character, Trump. How about corruption? Laptop gate, does that mean anything to you? You can read about it now. In some instances you can't, but only you have to tune into a certain network or read certain pages, certain websites to understand how deep this corruption goes and who the big guy is. We know who the big guy is. And he wants to wet his beak with some of the money from China and from Russia. Look at this. The entire impeachment debacle was about this very issue, which right now, 1 week before the election, the networks and social media are desperately trying to keep you from knowing the truth, even though there is a confirmed FBI investigation right now regarding what was found on that laptop. You may not hear that, but it was reported and confirmed. Why is Joe hiding? Where's Joe hiding Biden? Why won't he answer these questions? Don't know. Where did he get for questions like, for example, family wealth? Both candidates are quite wealthy. I know where Trump's wealth came from. I've read his books. I followed him from the 80s on. I've been in his Trump Tower. I know where Trump's family wealth comes from. How does a guy 47 years in public service accumulate this amount of family wealth? It raises at least a question mark, doesn't it? And what about the agenda? Is he truly leftist? Or is he simply going to allow someone else to come in after him who is a Trojan horse?
My name's Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband, and I am Kamala's running mate. You all think I'm kidding, don't you?
No, we don't think you're kidding. That's the issue. We know you're Harris's running mate, and that sooner or later she is going to wind up filling your office, the term of your office. And that is terrifying. Why is it terrifying?
You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage. But
yeah, well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator. You supported the Green New Deal. You supported Medicare for all.
You're the most liberal senator.
Legalizing marijuana. Joe Biden doesn't support those things.
Or yes, I am.
So are you going to bring the policies, those progressive policies that you supported as senator, into a Biden administration?
What I will do, and I promise you this, and this is what Joe wants me to do.
Now the wheels are spinning. What am I going to say? What am I going to say?
I will always share with him my lived experience as it relates to any issue that we confront. And I promised Joe that I will give him that perspective and always be honest with him.
And is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
No. No, it is the perspective of a woman who grew up a black child in America, who was also a prosecutor, who also has a mother who arrived here at the age of 19 from India, who also, you know, likes hip hop. Like, what do you want to know?
We want to know if you are indeed a socialist who is going to present a socialist agenda once you're running the White House. That's what we want to know, Kamala. We're curious. And it's interesting because you watch Kamala and you see her tell. She's a terrible poker player. She'd be awful. Because her tell, when she's uncomfortable and she gets a question that she doesn't want to be honest to answer, she will laugh. And that was her tell. She did it twice within a 2-minute, minute and a half clip. You are the most liberal senator. If I were the most liberal senator and that was my claim to fame and that was my agenda, I'm following up representing a liberal state, I would wear that proudly and say, yeah, you darn right I am. I'll stand up for liberal ideology 7 days a week. But she laughed. She didn't want to admit it. And are you a socialist? I'm ha ha ha. Not funny, because the joke may well be on the American people. And so we have finally the resistance. From the beginning of President Trump's, before he even took office, not my president, not my president, not my, you see, oh, and this one's really cute, you see, because they do a little Hitler mustache. Oh, Trump is Hitler, get it? Ha ha ha. Undermining the president from the very beginning. So clever, so funny, not my president, before he even did one thing in office. Maxine Waters, impeach 45. From the first month, from January, February of the year he took office, 17, impeach him. Impeach him for what? For being Trump. Finally, the House did impeach President Trump over the issue of investigating former Vice President Biden over the Ukraine issue. Just what the FBI is investigating today. How interesting, what the media has blacked out and doesn't want you to know right before an election. How interesting, how convenient a coincidence. All I know is that someone has accomplished a lot of stuff in 47 months versus someone who has accomplished very little in 47 years. Joe Biden, my friends, is the very definition of a swamp thing. President Trump came into office with a mandate to drain the swamp. And I think Joe Biden epitomizes the Washington swamp. So finally, if you value promise-keeping over political mendacity, the Democrat Party is not for you. I will not tell you whom to vote for, but I have made my opinion very clear, okay? And we all must follow our own consciences in who we pull the lever for. I have done the best that I can in providing a comprehensive overview of the candidates, of the party, of the issues, and how it would affect you and me. The last thing we have to do is pray for our republic. But first,